Welcome to another episode of Tree Service Marketing Profits. I'm your host, Wesley Smith with treeservicedigital.com. And we've got another episode today with a business owner who's going to share his story. And if you're watching this from YouTube, like and subscribe to our channel. We got plenty more episodes, marketing information, and interviews with experts coming up real shortly. If you're on the podcast, like and subscribe to your favorite podcast player. But I wanted to welcome today Paul Richmond with Branching Out Tree Specialists in Australia. Paul, welcome aboard, man. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you very much for asking me.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing your insights in the tree care industry and your business, kind of experience. Well, how did you get started in the tree service business in the first place?
Um, and funny enough, it was a girlfriend I was seeing at the time. Her dad was a horticulturalist. And going back 30 years ago, arboriculture wasn't that well known. And he just said, why don't you try that industry? So I went along to agricultural college in the UK. It intrigued me. So I signed up and did 2 years period on arboriculture.
Okay, so really kind of getting the actual formal training, like formal education in arboriculture. And then did you get like a first job with like a local tree service business, or how did that get started?
That got started mainly during the course that I did. We had to do a work placement, and obviously we had to find companies that would be willing to take us on for a period of a couple of months. So that's really most probably my first introduction into actually the working industry of the tree world. But I've always liked manual work, so it is sort of the right move for me in respects of that.
Gotcha. So they sort of placed you like in a work environment from college to kind of get you that on the job training.
That's correct.
Cool. Okay. About how long did you do that before maybe kind of branching out, so to speak? That's the name of the company there, but before
Yeah.
kind of getting involved with like a local tree service business and really getting that experience out in the field.
I think I did that. So, like I think any industry, you always start at the bottom of the ladder. So I did most probably groundwork for a couple of years, even though I was qualified. They'd put me up smaller trees that I could manage, and then they put me in trees with experienced climbers that could obviously direct me in the way of doing it in a safe manner.
Gotcha.
That most of that happened from the age of about 22 to about 24. And then after I did that, I became a contracts manager for one of the biggest companies at that time in arboriculture in England. I was a contracts manager there for 2 years. And then while I was working for them, I just built my own brand and started doing private work at weekends for myself.
Cool. So when you say contract manager, okay, so you're still in the UK. You just get started with a tree service company, you become kind of the contract manager. Are those like contracts with like the municipalities, local governments, things like that?
Yeah, most of them were local governments, councils, and highways. Um, we did some private work and a lot of building sites.
Gotcha. So like some property type things and right away with the highways and different things like that. Power line clearing, I'm assuming all that different kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, we covered every aspect, but we were in. So, like, if like a building company wanted to develop a block of land and it is had some good trees on it, the council would generally ask you to contract a um, level 5 arborist to do a survey and retain the trees that they think are worthy of retaining.
Gotcha. So you're kind of working there. You've got these contracts you're managing, helping them maintain their business, maintain their client relationships. And at the same time, you're starting to think, well, I could probably go out on my own and do some of this tree work. Take me through a little bit of like how that kind of got started and maybe what types of initial equipment you purchased to start doing the work on the side to build it up.
Yeah, no. Well, funny enough, a good friend of mine in the UK had his own tree business. It was only a small. Generally, everyone starts off as a small company. Him and two ground staff, and I mentioned to him, I'm thinking of starting my own. He tried to deter me because obviously it's a competition. But yeah, so but in the end, what I did was I basically just advertised my brand, my company that I was wanting to start up, and I worked every Saturday and Sunday for myself. The money I earned Monday to Friday with the company, I saved, and then after I think 2 years, I bought my first truck and chipper. My first chipper was only a 6-inch Wolf in the UK, and a transit tipper truck. And then I just progressed. Obviously, once I got that sort of equipment, I decided to um, quit the job I was doing as a contracts manager and just went out on my own.
What they call burning the candle at both ends, right? You're working full
Yeah.
time and then you're working on the side as well to build it up.
Well, I think when you're young, I mean, I was around the age of 24, 25. You have that energy to do that. And, and I've always really enjoyed hard work. So it's for me, it's a bit of a workout and I'm getting paid good money to do it. So for me, it's a win-win. But I think as I've got older, I've started to realize, maybe I should have changed tactics a little bit when I was younger, just so I didn't feel so burnt out at a later age in my life. But I wouldn't change it, I don't think.
Yeah, you're doing what you love. I mean, that's always the appeal of getting into the industry that you enjoy doing, and sometimes, yeah, you're doing the work, you love doing it, and there's nothing wrong with doing that while you still can and while you're able and healthy and everything else. And maybe at a certain time, it's time to transition and maybe like building it, a little bit where you have people out in the field doing that type of thing. But yeah, that all kind of comes with the territory and probably the timing just has to be right for you once that starts, happening. But so you start doing this on the side on the weekends. And you probably started thinking to yourself, man, I wish I had a third day of the weekend because it starts to get bigger, right? It gets
That's right.
bigger, you get more clients, and you're like, well, I'm gonna have to put them off to the following weekend. So take me through and the audience through. And if you guys are getting value from this, like and subscribe, like the video, comment on the video, ask questions if you want to. We'll come back and answer them. But after you start getting enough work on the weekends and your weekends are filled up on the schedule, you probably start thinking like, well, this full-time job might kind of be getting in the way at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like it doesn't take long. I mean, if you're good and passionate about anything you do in life, it doesn't take long for people to recognise that. And yeah, the client base I had got bigger and bigger. The friend I told you about that already had his own tree company. He was the one that worked with me at weekends, and we just went 50-50 on the jobs. He had all the equipment. So basically, we just split the job down the middle. He took half, I took half, used all his equipment. And yeah, so I think it's good to, I think I think it's good for anyone that wants to try and start their businesses. I'm a big believer in taking small steps to get to where you want to be. Um, so yeah, and the client base just grew and grew, and I think like any decision you make, it's got to be right for you. It's also scary because you think, oh, what? I think any business person, has that little nervousness of what if work slows up? What if, the economy has a slump? How will that affect me? But I always looked at it in the aspect that you can work for someone and that can still happen and you can still lose your job. So why not take a chance and try and build a good brand, offer a great service and reap the rewards from that?
Yeah, you said a couple of key points there. And I like, nothing is worth building that doesn't take a while to build, right? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't just happen overnight. You've got to kind of keep taking small steps forward and quarter after quarter, year after year, it continues to grow. And even if it's what people consider slow growth, you're still going to be waking up every day in the business working. You might as well just take your time, be patient, grow like intelligently. Don't try to get out over your skis, right? Just keep growing
Yeah.
and just, once you need to put more crew members in place or add a second crew or continue to grow the business, it'll come. So there's no need to rush it, and I think a lot of
Yeah.
times,
No.
you know what I mean?
Sorry. Yeah.
No,
No.
go ahead.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I remember the story about the tortoise and hare race. Like everyone thinks if I go big quick, I'm going to make the rewards. And I don't believe that. I think that if you go slow, you get a brand out there, you get a good name, the rewards will come to you.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just doing the right thing over and over, repeating that process, making
Yeah.
customers happy. doing what you say you're going to do, showing up on time, cleaning up the environment, like making sure everything is done properly, that'll grow your business just by default because people always want the best people doing the work, right? So I think the word gets out, right? You get referred a
Yeah, for
lot more.
sure. You know, I tell my staff now, you know, like you can do the biggest tree, the most technical takedown, but if you leave the garden looking like a cyclone's hit it, that's what they remember. So for
Exactly.
me as a business owner, the cleanup is most probably the most important part of the finished product.
Yeah, that's what they're going to see last, you know?
Yes.
Um, well, so before we jumped on, we talked about, now you're in Australia with branching out tree specialists. Take me through that move from the UK to Australia. Like, when did that take place in the business journey?
Well, I have my own company in the UK. It's my surname, Richmond Tree Services. But it is I've always wanted to come to Australia. It's 2007 when I moved here, so I mostly applied for my visa in 2006, and luckily for me, Cyclone Larry had was on its way to hit far north Queensland. So I was actually on Queensland state list of trades they wanted. So I got sponsored by Queensland State to come over here, purely because of Cyclone Larry, which I didn't get here for that. That had already come and gone. But I got my temporary residency, and for me, it was I believe in if opportunities come your way. So I rang up an immigration agent. They said yes, we can get you in as long as you stay on the list within the next 18 months. It won't be an issue. And I ummed and ahed because like all my family are in the UK, so it's a big move. One thing my mum said to me is, "Don't live your life for us, live it for you," and that's what changed my mind. I thought, yeah, I've got to do it for myself, not for familiarity of what I'm used to. And I believe in taking opportunities, and for me, it was a great opportunity. Even though I had a very good business in England, for me, life is short, and if opportunities come my way, I'm someone that always says yes to them. So that's what brought me to Cairns, Queensland, really.
Gotcha. So your business was thriving and doing well in the UK, but there was a bigger opportunity, and you'd always kind of like wanted to move to Australia or kind of go and get to Australia in the first place. So that cyclone, I'm assuming it was a major cleanup, major tree down, debris damage type thing. Because here in the States, we have a lot of hurricanes, right? Like in
Yeah,
Florida, different thing like that. I think a cyclone is pretty much the same thing. It's just called a
I
cyclone,
think so.
like a hurricane,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
that's correct.
Probably a big, massive storm there, the cyclone you were referring to, and they needed help with cleanup. So that was kind of your opportunity, I guess, to move, and it was kind of the right time to do it, I guess, at that point, right?
Oh, definitely. Arboriculture wasn't a high rated trade they wanted, and it never generally is in Australia. Usually it's doctors, nurses, people of that sort of profession. So for me to be on the list, I didn't have to prove my age. I just had to prove qualifications, and they sponsored me. To come out here, whereas most people have to find a company to work for and get sponsorship that way. So Queensland State sponsored me, and I thought, yeah, what an opportunity! Like I could have rang up an immigration agent, and they would have said, "No, you're too old." I was 37 at the time when I got to Australia, so they could have said, "No, you're too old." The point system, you're not going to get to the amount of points that is required. And so for me, it's like, wow, what an opportunity! Like that doesn't come along often. So regardless of my business doing well and I was earning a good living from it, um, I'm a big believer. If you're good at what you do, you can start that anywhere in the world. So I just jumped on it.
That's amazing, and that's a testament, guys. Anybody watching or watching this after the fact or listening on the podcast, Paul completely started over in an entirely new country, right? So started the business in the UK on the side, got that going, got that successful, got busy, got his calendar full, and then decided, I want to move to Australia. That's really where I want to be. And there was a cyclone, hurricane, massive cleanup project. So he was able to get in and migrate um, to Australia, get there. And I'm assuming, so you go there, you start over, and is it immediately you're on the job site kind of with the cyclone cleanup? And were you able to kind of Did you have your own equipment already when you got there, or were you kind of utilizing other local tree companies' equipment at first, or how did that work?
Yeah, no, I found a position with a company in Cairns, and I only worked for them for a few months. I think the biggest shock for me in far north Queensland was the safety aspect. There wasn't any. So people were people were using chainsaws, like with just shorts on, normal boots, no safety helmet, no visors. It's quite an eye opener. The standard of work was very different as well. I mean, this is going back 20, 19 years ago. So it's improved a lot, not to the point where I was to the standard I was used to, but it has improved a lot. And yeah, like it's just the safety aspect where there wasn't any, and everyone refers themselves where I live in far north Queensland as tree loppers. And I was always told, yeah, I was always told in the UK from the college I trained at, if you refer yourself as a tree lopper, you will never get any work because we don't lop trees, we prune them. Um, so that was a big eye because everyone was a tree lopper, and in my head it's like tree loppers are not professional. They're not. It's not a word that is in any arboricultural write up. Like if you're a tree lopper, you're basically unqualified and you're just doing it to make money. You're not doing it for the love of the industry or the care of the tree. And that showed as well. You know.
That might be a similar term here in the States as topping trees. Just cutting them
Yes.
off right at the top. Is that similar to tree lopping?
Pretty much so. Like, unfortunately for the area I live in, because of cyclones, everyone gets very nervous. So for them, by removing the tree or cutting them in half, which minimises them to fall on their house, that's what generally happens here, which is a shame because there's some magnificent trees here in far north Queensland. But yeah, people just, and trying to educate people is very hard because they got that mindset of, I want to protect my property. I want to protect my family, which I completely understand. So I'm just going to cut the tree in half or take it down. There's no pruning to Australian standards or any standards really. It is literally lopping or removing.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, that sounds familiar to hear. We've even had a few people in the neighborhood that they'll move into a house in our neighborhood, and all of a sudden they hire a tree company, and all of a sudden you'll see the top half of the tree is completely sliced in half. And
Yeah,
there'll be these, the big limbs are just sticking up that are sawed completely off. And literally 2, 3, 4 years go by and hardly anything grows out of that limb because they completely chopped it
yeah.
off. So yeah, I can see why that wouldn't be a proper standard at all. I mean,
No,
the aesthetics of looking at the tree, and then B, the health of the tree. It doesn't seem to be a good idea.
no. I mean, the beauty of Cairns because it's tropical, and there's been very little research done on tropical trees, how they react to heavy pruning. Most of the trees, the research has been done on European trees that go dormant. So the thing with tropical trees is, you can cut them in half, and within 8 months they have 10-foot regrowth. I mean, the
I see.
regrowth is prolific, and it does come back very quickly because they don't go dormant, so they're always growing. It just looks unsightly, and it's just not what I was taught at college to do. But again, like I look at it in the aspect that, firstly, they come back very quickly with regrowth. They never die. They're constantly growing. Um, so it's, when I first came in here, I sort of had difficulty doing that type of work purely on the basis that it wasn't what I was taught and it wasn't good for the trees. But then I sort of looked into it, and like everything like Shigo, Claws Mag, everything that's done on um, research for trees, European trees that go dormant, nothing's been done on tropical trees, and they come back, and like within 2 years they look like you never touched them.
That's amazing. So they grow pretty quick. Yeah, I guess it depends on the
Very quick.
species. Yeah, the species of the tree and probably the area of the world that you're in.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. It's amazing. So you get to Australia, you help with the cyclone cleanup. You're working for another company at first. Is that where branching out tree specialist kind of was born, like a little bit after that?
Yeah, I think it was. So I worked for them for 3 months. I had a accident with them, And in all the years I've been in the tree industry, I'd never had a serious accident. So obviously, once I recovered, I thought, and the accident was EWP failure, and it's something that we never, very rarely used in the UK. And they set it up. I was using it, and it wasn't set up correctly. Um, and So after the accident, I decided, look, I'm just going to start up on my own, because then I control my environment. I control what I do, how I do it, in every aspect of um, skill of doing the tree work, but also the safety aspect. So I started contract climbing for a lot of companies in far north Queensland, and same thing. I started saving money so I could then buy my equipment as and when I had enough money up together.
Gotcha. So you kind of you got the entrepreneur bug again. Decided
Yeah,
it was time to go ahead and get started. Yeah, because the sooner you start, the sooner you're going to get to the other side where you're steady, you've got more control, and you're kind of in control of your own destiny. So you started your branching out tree specialist at that point, kind of started saving your money doing contract work for other tree companies. And then it probably blossomed into you've got now your own customers and your own clients. So it kind of started going from there. What are some of the things that you did maybe after the contract portion of that startup phase? What are some of the things that you did, like marketing wise or asking for referrals wise, that kind of helped you ramp your business up to get more customers in those initial years?
yeah. The initial years, it was mainly leaflet delivery. So I did a lot of that in the UK, and that worked. So a lot of it here was leaflet delivery, just putting a leaflet of the advertising the business in the letterbox, and mostly for every 1,000 leaflets, you'd get most probably between 10 and 15 quotes. And if you're good at what you do and you can install confidence into the client, out of them, I'd mostly win between 7 and 8 jobs.
Okay, so leaflet delivery, that's probably similar to our direct mail service here in the United States. So it goes
Yes,
right
most
to their,
probably.
yeah,
Right
exactly.
to
Yeah, it
the
goes to their post
letterbox.
mailbox. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's good because you can blanket the entire community, the entire area, and everybody that gets your piece of mail, if they need tree service work, they give you a call. And we really suggest doing this for marketing for tree service business owners because it's a great way to target specific areas, especially if you like the demographics in that area, you like the business, the people that own those properties, the size of the house. Like normally they can afford your services, so why not target those areas? And so that's a good way
definitely.
to get started. So okay, so you started the leaflet delivery, which is basically direct mail. And then was there anything online that you started doing after, that time frame, like early 2010s, I guess probably it was at this point?
Oh, no, not really, because I was very obviously I put a web page up. Technology wise, I'm not. At that point, I wasn't very savvy, um, and I don't think it was quite ramped up like it is now. So most of it, I stuck with leaflet deliveries, and then just reputation. Like people would recommend me to friends, family, and colleagues at work. I did the yellow pages, which is like a directory of companies advertising. Yellow pages phased out purely because of social media. A lot of it was old style advertising, leafleting, advertising in directory books and stuff like that, and then just word of mouth. I think the social media side came about more so, most probably in the last 7 years for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, Yellow Pages was huge, very big here in the States for a long, long time. That was a way that
Yes,
home service companies could advertise. You just pay money for the size of advertisement that you want in the
that's
niche that
correct.
you were
Yeah,
in, tree service, plumbing, landscaping, whatever it was. And so that was a big way to advertise. And that took, once Google got established and people started learning how to go to Google and search for things, once that got established, it was a slow burn and a trickle to get Yellow Pages kind of continued to like decrease and decrease over it took about 15 years.
yes, that's
But it
right. Yeah,
finally, now it's pretty much just gone, right? Like you don't even
yeah.
get the delivery books anymore at our houses like we used to.
No, we don't. We get nothing anymore. But it is old school. I mean, trying to sift through. a book of thousands of companies advertising the same thing, and basically the same wording. So it was always very hard to know which one was a reputable company and which wasn't. And I think a lot of people went by the size. The bigger the ad, the bigger the company. Generally, that wasn't the case.
That's true. Now everybody's got one of these in their hand and in their pocket all day, so they can literally with their voice just go, "Hey, I'm looking for a tree service company near me," and they'll get a bunch of results and they can call them.
Yeah,
And
a lot easier. A lot
mhm.
quicker.
Yeah.
I think with social media, it's keeping yourself in the top three on the Google search engine.
Hmm.
Um, so that's always. I think. I think if you can keep yourself in the top three on the Google search engine, then obviously you're doing well in respects of customer service, reputation, reviews, stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, reviews are a monumental. They're a huge part of getting noticed on the internet. So the more of those five-star reviews you can continue to get on your Google map listing, that's the more it's going to show up in that top three, like you're talking about.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, amazing. So you guys kind of just started growing, and you started kind of getting out there. The word of mouth started getting out there. Branching Out Tree Specialists was starting to grow, gain some steam. Take me through kind of your customer type split. Was it mainly residential? Did you start working on contract work with municipalities and roadways and things like that, or was it just residential commercial? How did that look?
Yeah, no, the majority of my client base, it's progressed a bit more now, but at the beginning is residential. I like working for residential properties, purely because generally the tree work's more technical. If and so that's my main section I like about residential is that you always got some form of obstacle to work around. So I've always preferred residential work. Um, but we are starting to get into construction sites, areas where new pipelines being laid, highways. But it's a slow build, it's because it's the old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know, here in far north Queensland. But obviously in the 19 years I've been here, it's changing. People are starting to recognise the need for good experienced qualified arborists, and the difference between lopping and pruning. So yeah, I'd say in the last sort of 2.5 years, the client base has changed slightly, but I still prefer residential because it's makes you think about everything, which then doesn't make you complacent up a tree.
Yeah, okay. So the majority is residential work currently for your business. And
Yeah.
talk about the seasonality, because we're on the other side of the world here in the United States. How do the seasons look like in Australia? Do you get four seasons, or is it pretty steady?
Yeah, not here in far north Queensland. Like there's for me, there's two seasons. It's hot and hotter. That's it. Because we don't have any seasons. Nothing goes dormant. We don't have leaves dropping. So basically, in the winter, the average temperature is say between 26 and 28 during the day. At night, can drop to about 10 to 14. But there's no humidity. In the summer, it's most probably around 34, but the humidity varies between sort of 70 and 90%. So for the summer, that's what the difficult bit is keeping hydrated and trying to keep cool and like you can have a shower, get out, dry yourself. You're still wet because you're just sweating.
That's how it is. I'm in the southeastern United States, and the humidity is very high in the
Yeah,
summertime, especially. It's very hot. It's sticky. It's humid. And well, that's cool. That really makes for it's seemingly kind of just a steady year of work. Like you don't have this
yeah,
slowdown period during a wintertime season that's too cold, right?
yeah. Like we have, I've noticed since I've been here, there's like Easter because everyone in far north Queensland love going camping. So Easter time, it's cool at night. During the days, very nice temperature. So Easter time goes very quiet for us because people just go camping on the school holidays. And end of tax term. Obviously, I think that's the same for everyone in the world. Like come the end of tax term, everyone's waiting to see if they're going to get any money back from the tax office that they can use to spend on whatever they like. So those two areas are generally when the industry goes quiet for us in far North Queensland.
Yeah, here in the States, I mean, some people in the northern part of the United States, it gets really cold. And, if you're not doing some kind of like commercial, like snow plowing or snow removal type services, that it can be a little bit slow for the tree service work. And a lot of people, I think, put off, or they have these contracts that you were talking about that you were doing in the UK. A lot of that keeps their business kind of steady during the wintertime. But
Yeah,
other than that, it can get kind of slow, and people just call a little bit less during those winter months because there's snow on the ground, there's ice on the ground or whatnot. So that's good to know. You guys just kind of stay steady, the pretty much the whole time. A little bit slower during tax season. I think everybody's always anticipating that part of the year, right?
yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
well, good. So what are you guys kind of now when you guys do tree removal, tall trees, things like that, do you guys have equipment to make that easier to take it down? Or are you guys climbing and taking them down that way? How are you guys doing that kind of work?
Yeah, well, I've got three climbers, all qualified. So we offer both option, and I allow my climbers because like we got an EWP, a monitor. It's got a 19-meter reach, but we two of my climbers just love climbing. So if there's a challenge and they're like, yeah, I don't want to use the monitor, I'd rather climb, even though the monitor may be a little bit quicker once set up, I allow them to choose because they're the ones doing it. I don't believe in being a boss that dictates to the staff massively. If I'm not on a job site and they wish to climb and the tree's climbable and safe and they feel more comfortable, then that's their decision. But yeah, we have equipment. We have, like I said, a 19-meter monitor lift, and but yeah, like I'm a big believer in if you're an arborist, you should be able to climb, and if you can't climb, then you shouldn't call yourself an arborist because the industry is about people being able to access a tree with rope and harness and do the work from inside the canopy.
I see. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, Paul. I appreciate you sharing with us. What's next for, branching out tree specialists? Like where are you guys headed over the next 5 or 10 years? Are there growth aspirations? Is it just to keep steady, keep busy, and just keep doing more of the
Yeah,
same? Or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, like I'm trying to progress the business. Like everyone, when I started out, especially here in far North Queensland, it was just me and two ground staff. I've got five full-time staff and three part-time staff, a couple of admin ladies. And my goal is I'm 56 this year. I only came off the tools 2 years ago. So my goal is to get the business running sort of 80% without too much input from myself. So then I can venture into some other things I've got in my head to try and develop. And yeah, so obviously to keep building client base, whether that's government work or private residential, keep the staff training up together with anything that new comes out in the industry. Keep the equipment. Obviously, we rotate the equipment every 5 years. I think it's good to do that. And yeah, so yeah, they're definitely going to build the business. I'm hoping in the next 5 years I will be taking a step back from the business and allowing other people to manage it and run it for me.
That sounds like you're well on your way. I mean, you've built the proper foundation for the business. I mean, being there in business for 15 plus years, I assume probably around 15 plus years. So that's a good foundation. Got a good customer base, good steady work, good name out there, good reputation. That's when it's probably easier to move forward faster because you get that base already built, and kind of the industry
Yeah,
experience.
yeah, I agree with you. Like if you can build a good brand and get your name out there and be reputable, um, and also like even you always get clients that may not be happy for whatever reason it might be. Like customer service is very big for me. Like if I need to rectify something that someone's not happy with, we will go back and do that. Um, so I think just overall customer service and how you conduct with them and be be proactive with them is the key to any good business.
I agree. Sometimes the owner or, the leader of the company needs to step in and put the fire out, And I think that goes a
Yeah,
long
definitely.
way with the customer in the long run, right?
Yeah, I think so. Like, nowadays, like, because you can get the reviews and you can see the reviews, I would say we've got 99%, um, 5-star reviews, but obviously there's a couple in there. And I'm not, like, I'm not one that wants to shy away from that, because a lot of companies will try and hide it, or, I know you can get you can get them removed from your review list, but I don't like that, because I think you're not being transparent, and not only to clients but to yourself. We can never produce 100% quality all the time, and like, obviously minor things happen in any, like, you're dealing with nature, minor things happen. And I think you just got to be transparent. So if we get a bad review, I will always put my side of the story over, but I don't delete them, because I think people have a right to see that, like, you're not gonna, there's no company out there that can do 100% every day, all day.
That's a good point. I think everybody needs to take that with a grain of salt. I mean, that's exactly what happens, right? Nobody's perfect. And then sometimes too, it's not even that you did anything wrong. I mean, we've had customers or clients to get a bad review because they were doing work two doors down from the house that left the bad review. I mean, you can't even avoid that, right? Like one of
No,
them got a
that's right.
bad they got a bad review because they started working at 8 a.m. and the homeowner across the street or down the street was upset because it was so early. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that wasn't even their house. So
No, and this is the thing, like, and that, I think that's the difficult thing about, like, social media, is that anyone can leave a good or bad review, and that can affect your business overall, especially if you're getting a lot of bad reviews that you didn't deserve it. But I still think being transparent and explaining to people why you've received that review is more beneficial for your company than trying to hide it.
yeah, agreed. Well,
You
that's
know?
been great. That's great advice on reviews and reputation management. So for the audience, people watching, just do that. Make sure you respond to the review with your side of the story. And Paul, as we wrap up, you've picked up and started over twice. You started your company in the UK, you picked up and started over in Australia. Maybe do you have any words of wisdom for people that maybe are just starting out, maybe looking to get started or already have started, just to kind of continue with their business and keep that optimistic viewpoint and just keep working hard? Any words of wisdom for those folks?
Yeah, I think business is can be generally simple, like, it's how you present yourself. I was always told by one of my old bosses, how you turn up and represent yourself goes a long way. Like, if you turn up and everything's falling apart, and you look scruffy, and your truck or ute is, like, the bumpers hanging off, it doesn't instill confidence. So, for me, presentation's key, not only for myself but my staff and equipment, and just go slow. Like, nothing was ever achieved in a quick manner.
That's true. Well, there you go, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you have any questions or comments, just comment below on the video. And Paul, branching out tree specialist in Australia. Appreciate your time, Paul. Thanks so much for
Uh,
joining and telling your story.
yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you. And we'll see you guys on the next one.